Hi fam, I hope that you're doing well today. So yesterday we are sharing some life lessons from the third by Alex Banayan, right? And today there are a few more lessons that I got last night I thought I'd share with you too, right? I think that basically been sharing so far from yesterday's post that the book is about taking the unconventional path, right? The road less travel, So let's zoom into today's session. So I think yesterday we cut off where Alex was preparing to go and meet Steve, right? And then there are two key things that stood out from the preparation that Alex did when he was going to meet Steve. So first of all, he found that Steve too had begun his major career in a pretty unconventional way. So what happened was that Steve got some tickets to visit the show, and like let's say it's Hollywood or something, this place where they produce movies. So he got the tickets, and for instance, let's say it's 2 days. After the 2 days passed, he felt that he still wanted to be there. So every morning he would just get up and then just show up there, just get up and then just show up there. I think at a point he slept there or something, as the book says. And then, interestingly, on a normal basis, once your ticket is ended, you should stop coming, right? But then he kept going, and then you get to security gate, and then he'll just wave the man and then just enter, as if the man was supposed to know him. So, that was pretty audacious. It means that he really wanted to be in that space. And so after he did that for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, there's a man who noticed him and sort of became his mentor in the space, right? And then one day the man asked him, okay, so maybe you should show us what you've got. You've been here for a while. Maybe you can make a short movie and then show us. So Steve went to make the short movie and then he brought it, and the man was super impressed. He called another gentleman to really check. He was like, you need to check this out right now. You need to stop whatever you're doing and check this out. And so that man checked this out. After that man checked it out, they offered Steve a contract, and it was a major contract, right? And it was because he had been so persistent, and then this person connected him to the right person, right? And then one interesting thing about the movie that he made was that it says in Alex's book that Steve had been in the movie business or in that space for since he was 12 years old. And so when I heard that, I was thinking, oh, that's kind of like this 10,000 hour rule, right? In the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, where he says that if you actually put enough time into something, it tends to work out. And then to achieve like really phenomenal results, we need to put enough time, right? And so that is similar. So if Steve started since he was 12 years old, it means that he had really put a lot of time into becoming perfect. So no wonder he produced a movie that got him an instant contract, right? I think the life lesson for there is that we also need to put our 10,000 hours in. When we read the book Outliers, I think that's the basic thing that Malcolm Gladwell reiterates. He shares different examples about Bill Gates, about the Beatles, about other people who had to put in that effort, that consistent effort, even on days when they didn't feel like they had to put in the efforts in order to get that 10,000 hours at the end of the day. So from what the book says about Spielberg, who started when he was 12, he had put his 10,000 hours in, right? So I think that from Steve's section of the book where Alex, on the part where Alex researched him, I think that the two key lessons are that he really, first of all, was audacious, he was bold, he knew what he wanted, he was ready to go past all the conventional things, because conventionally, if your ticket was over, you shouldn't be there, but then he still hung around, right? And then he also put in his 10,000 hours since he was 12 years old. Now let's go to the part where Alex tried to meet Steve, right? So Steve came to the event. Earlier in the event, Alex saw him, but then he didn't want to approach him. He felt shy. He was like, this big man, I don't want to go near him. So he didn't approach him. Then at a point, he noticed Steve was about to leave, and he said to himself, okay, so this is the chance, I need to go after him. So he followed Steve out to the parking lot where he was walking to his car with assistant, right? With Steve's assistant. And then he shared the mission with Steve. He told him that he was out to interview these entrepreneurs because of this, that. He felt that's going to help other young people in his generation. So Steve agreed to do the interview. Then Steve asked his assistant to take Alex's business card so they could keep in contact. Now, just as Alex was about to hand his business card to Steve's assistant, a lecturer came in shouting, no, 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 no. She came outside to where they were, right? Shouting, no, 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 that isn't done here. So I think that according to what Alex explained in the book, like students weren't allowed to have that form of relationship with people who came onto their university at that point, right? And so then it didn't happen. So it means he couldn't hand over the business card, and then Steve had to leave without having Alex's details. So which meant that was a barrier to him getting to meet Steve, right? And so then what happened was that he decided that, okay, so now he was going to have to go to the next, should I say, target, or to the next person to interview, and then maybe later I'd have to come back to see. I think that probably a key lesson here is that, you know, sometimes on the journey isn't going to be a smooth, we'll not get, maybe we'll probably not get there straight, right? Although we're going to persist. But then sometimes there may be other ways that we could move along, where we could also learn some lessons that will help us get to the ultimate point that we want to get to at the end of the day, right? And so he decided that now he was going to interview Tim Ferriss. And then this happened because he saw a book of Tim Ferriss's, which he had. I think probably he hadn't really paid much attention to it or something, called the 4-Hour Work Week. And so he started to read it. And when he started to read it, he saw some phrases in it which made him think that, oh, this is the right book for me at this time where I am in my mission, right? So he saw this book, he started to read it. Then he noticed that on one of the pages, probably a footnote or something like that, it was a really tiny bit of information, a really tiny paragraph. He saw that Tim was a chairperson of a charity. That's Alex. Alex had met somebody who worked at this charity the previous years when he was volunteering. So then when immediately he saw that name, he was like, oh, those are those guys. I had a friend that when I was volunteering. So he called up that friend and was like, okay, so you want to meet in Ferries because of this, because of that, you explained the mission. So that friend now told his boss that this is what Alex has set out to do. And then he asked his boss if he'd email Tim on Alex's behalf. His boss did so. Now apparently Tim declined, but then probably the boss felt bad or something, so he didn't come back and tell Alex. So Alex was just there waiting for a response. It wasn't coming. So he was like, okay, I'm going to take things into my own hands. So he went to this conference where Tim was coming to speak. And then when he went there, his only way, his closest chance to speak to Tim was to go and wait for him by the bathrooms. And so he went to crouch in the corner of the bathrooms. And then he speaks in the book about how he had to go to the stench of the urine and all that, right? Just to wait for the right time to target him. So Tim came out eventually, then he got to him, he spoke to him, told him about the mission and all that. Then Tim was like, okay, I want to be interviewed, it's fine. But probably Tim still hadn't, like probably he said that he wanted to because he saw him there. Because you know, earlier in the mail, he had told them that boss who emailed him that he didn't want to do it, right? And then subsequently when Alex followed up, he still wasn't given the go ahead. He persisted like a number of times until finally got the chance to interview Tim Ferriss. And I think that's a lesson in persistence, because he sent emails, so many emails, and then finally Tim just picked up the phone and was like, okay, so guy, what's up? And then he got the chance to interview him. So I think his persistence paid off. And then Tim also showed him a couple of lessons about how to contact people who are busy, and then the best ways to do it. And he used those later in the book, right? So I think that's another lesson there. On our journey, we'll learn different points that we need to use at different points in our journey in order to make sure that we are getting towards our goal, and then we are working in ways that are suitable to the people we are working with as well. Because at a point, Tim got the emails, he was just tired, right? So he had to show like some tips, and he actually used them later on, right? So I think that's one of the lessons in persistence. And I think that the final lesson for today is that I noticed that both Tim Ferriss and Alex, they had volunteered in one way or the other. And I think that's a great way in which they build their social networks. Tim Ferriss spoke about how he got some credibility from it as well. So I guess if we want to launch into different spaces, that's also something that we could do to gain more credibility, to gain that social network, and then so that together we could reach our goals. We could support each other to reach our goals, and then support each other in areas where we feel that we need that kind of push, or we need that kind of connection, you know, in order to get to the goals that we want to get to. So I hope that these lessons have been useful to you. I wish you an amazing rest of the day. Goodbye.